fun song. So I'm pretty sure you guys are going to hear the word good more than you've probably heard it all year in this one day. Sorry. Or not sorry. Not sorry. You're going to hear it a lot. Thank you, Gina. That was beautiful. She pretty much summarized my talk, which is great. Because if you can't hear it through my ears or mouth, you'll have heard it through hers, right? Thank you, too. I want to share a story with you that I heard recently. It is from the time of the Buddha. Maybe some of you have heard it. There is a story about a village, and a woman who lived in this village had gone through great suffering. She had lost her father, she had lost her husband, her uncle, and she was just left with her little baby. And this sickness was going around the village like rampant. And then she finds out that her baby has been stricken with this illness as well. And slowly the baby dies. And she's holding the baby in her arms and she won't let him go, and she becomes wailing in sorrow and starts running around the village asking anybody and everyone if they could help her, if there was some medicine that they could help to bring her baby back to life. This is all that she has. And no one could help. No one could say anything. But then one man stopped her and said, "You know, the Buddha is teaching in the forest grove. You should go to him and ask him for help." And so she took her dead baby to the Buddha, and she said, "Can you please bring him back to life? Please." And he said, "Yes, I will. But first you have to do something for me. I need you to go into the village and bring me back a handful of mustard seeds. And every household in the village has mustard seeds. So bring me a handful back." And he said, "But there's just one last thing. I need the handful of mustard seeds to come from a family, from a home where no one has died. Not a mother or a brother or a sister or a father or a family member." So she takes the baby and she runs to the village and she goes into the first home that she can find and she says, "Please, please, can you help me? Can I have some mustard seeds?" And they give them to her freely, and she runs out and then comes back and says, "I forgot. I have to ask, did anyone in your family pass away?" And they said, "Yes, our grandmother did." And so she gives the mustard seeds back and she runs to the next house. And she says, "Do any of you have mustard seeds?" And they say, "Yes, take my mustard seeds." And she says, "Has anyone in your family died recently?" And they said, "Yes, our father." And so she runs to another house and asks, and they say their young daughter had passed. And to another house, and their aunt had passed. And on she went throughout the entire village to every household until she realized that there was no home where death did not occur. And so she fell down onto her knees with her baby, and she cried and she cried. And she realized that there's no place where this experience of life and death does not occur. And so she went back to the Buddha, and she understood, and they buried the baby with all the rites and rituals that they do. And she bowed down to the Buddha and she asked him, "Please, please give me a teaching. Please help me understand this cycle of life and death. Please help me understand beyond the suffering of this." And he taught her, and she went on to become a yogi and a very wise woman. And she was able to live through that suffering. And this morning I want to talk about a woman who had a very similar experience. Her name is Emma Curtis Hopkins. She too had a child who had passed away, and it pushed her. It pushed her into her spiritual journey, into her spiritual path of trying to find the good, of trying to find life in the midst of the suffering, even with death around. And so our theme this month is "Our Roots Run Deep." The roots of spiritual living run deep. The roots of this philosophy and faith run deep. And one of those deep roots is this beautiful mystic, Emma Curtis Hopkins. She is one of the most profound and audacious and mystical women that I've ever had the opportunity of studying. And I was so glad after the last service when I saw a bunch of people over there buying her books. It's an incredible philosophy. And Emma firmly believed in the good. And this isn't a moral good. It's not a good like there's a good and a bad. It's not like that. It's a good as in, if we are incarnations of the divine spirit, if we are beings of God, then our good is that tone by which we express it in life. It's that feeling tone that pushes and pulls us on in life. And so I just want to share, before we get into some of her truth and philosophy, I just want to share a little bit of history with you guys. Is that okay? I don't want to bore you guys. Okay. Emma Curtis Hopkins was super cool. I just have to say, I want to say she's a badass. Am I allowed to say that here? Okay, she's a badass. Okay. First of all, check this out. Okay, I didn't know this part. She was actually the founder of the New Thought Movement and Alliance. That I did not know. And for those of you who are unaware of what that means, the New Thought Movement or Alliance, it is an alliance of faiths, traditions, philosophies, and people who are in alliance together under certain principles. And so that would be like the Centers for Spiritual Living that we come to. It would be agape, it would be unity, it would be divine science, any of these spiritual living communities. And we all have 4 fundamental principles that we agree upon. And that is that God is everywhere present, that divinity dwells within us, that we're all spiritual beings, and that our mental state outpictures into our everyday life. So that now you know what the New Thought Movement is. And she was actually known as the teacher of teachers because she taught the individuals who then became leaders and organized Centers for Spiritual Living, Unity, Divine Science, and something Charles Fillmore, the founder of Unity. Have any of you been to a Unity church? Okay, some of, yeah. So Charles Fillmore, the founder of Unity, he once said of Emma, because he was a longtime student of hers, he said, she is by far the most successful teacher in the entire world. She dwells so continually in the spirit that you cannot help but be healed by her presence. That just listening to the words that come out of her mouth change and lift your life. Oh my goodness, I wish I could have met her. But here's the really badass thing, okay? So even though this term Father, Mother, God, have you guys heard that before? Okay, so there's this term Father, Mother, God, and it actually came from the Quakers over in England, or the Shakers, who are a branch of the Quakers, you know, the ones who get really wild. Okay, they coined the term Father, Mother, God, but it was not until Miss Hopkins who pulled away from the dominant Protestantism of the 19th century to create a feminist theology, right? And she, in the Emma Hopkins College of Metaphysical Science, ordained 22 ministers in her first graduation ceremony. 20 of them were women. Yes. 20 of them were women, and she put them in high positions as ordained pastors in her ministry. This is in 1889. Like, women didn't even have the right to vote in America until 1920. She is a serious, right? She's got some courage. I mean, it's just incredible. I don't know. She blows my mind. Anyway, I mean, she paved the way for people like me and you and whoever else, all of us women who have a higher calling but weren't allowed to, and now we are. Okay, so now I want to tell you just a little bit about her philosophy. Her philosophy began with 12 lessons in truth. 12 lessons in truth, and we'll just talk about the first lesson today, and if you want to, you can buy her books. I'm also teaching a class at the end of the year about her. Actually, a roots class is coming up soon, so if you want to know about all the people we've been talking about all month, you'll want to take that class. Okay, so the first lesson in truth is this. It's also called the statement of being. And the statement of being, the foundation of it is that, yes, we are all incarnations of divine spirit, God, but in order to fully experience that desire we have in our hearts and in our minds and our bodies to really feel that spirit, really feel what it feels like to live in this divinity, this God, that it is more successful for us, more in tune with our nature, to use the term good instead of God. And this is for many reasons. The term God has been abused by people for centuries, okay? Some people, when they hear the term God, they're just put off. Some people, when they hear the term God, they think of a man in the sky with a big beard condemning people. Some people, when they hear the word God, they feel like it's something outside of themselves that they can't fully understand how to embody. Sometimes people have been so hurt and abused by spiritual leaders or authority figures condemning them in the name of God. So you see, we've got all this stuff, not all of us, but some of us, we have this stuff that comes up around that term, that word. So when we move it aside, and we speak to the truth of our being, we begin to state that there is good for me and I ought to have it, we realize that we are divine incarnations who need to speak our word of being to speak that which we seek. And so one of my favorite affirmations that she uses, just feel into this, because this is what has pulled me forward in life, is not dwelling on the idea of God, because it's so ambiguous sometimes for me, but to think about this. I am seeking my good, and my good is my God, because it draws and pushes and moves me on. I am seeking my good, and my good is my God, because it draws and pushes and moves me on. I love that. Some questions she asks to try and kind of have our brains understand what this good is like, as she says, why do you move your right hand? Why do you move your left hand? Because you're seeking your good. Why does the bird fly in the sky? Because it's seeking its good. Why do we breathe? Because we're seeking our good. Why do we move in a direction? Because we're seeking our good. Why does the stone lie still? Because it is waiting for its good. And what this says to me is that we are governed. We are governed. The good that you and I desire to experience in life, that great good that is impelling through us, is that God experience we desire. And so there's this instinct in us to be thinking and to be moving and to be acting and to be speaking in ways that are always pushing us forward, always pushing us to our greatest good. And I want to share some news with you, because I feel like it really represents a demonstration of this. And it's also kind of sad. So I got a call on Thursday that Reverend Donna was received an offer to be an assistant minister at the Center for Spiritual Renewal in Fountain Valley, California. And she's been a part of this community, that community, for a long time. And she came here for a while, and they had asked her to start coming back for like one Sunday a month. And so she's been doing that for a while. And for years and years and years, she has had this high vision of herself in ministry, moving up and moving forward in it. And so she accepted her letter of call as the assistant minister there. And I'll tell you, the first two things I felt when I heard this, when she told me this. And I wish that they were in reverse, but I'm just going to be honest, they weren't. The first thing I felt was like a gut punch, like, oh, and I felt this wave of grief come over me, like, oh no, I'm losing her. And then the second thing I felt, so then my eyes started prickling with tears and I'm shaking, and then the second thing I felt was, oh my God, I'm so proud of her. Like, this is happening for her. How exciting. And so these two things are paradoxically inside of me, turning and turning and turning, and I'm like, okay, breathe. She's just going to Fountain Valley. And actually, I called her Saturday and yesterday, and I said, can we just talk for a minute? And she goes, I've been in the bathroom all day, sick to my stomach with all of this because I just love you guys so much, and I just know that this is just my good pushing me forward. She goes, it's what we teach, it's what we believe, it's what we do here. It's the spiritual practice, it pushes us forward. And she goes, but I feel like I don't want to leave, but I want to go. And so I said, well, how about this? Why don't you do what you do over there and be who you are and come do events here. Do your, she's going to do a Good Friday service with Reverend Juanita. She's going to do all sorts of events. She's not really leaving us. She's just changing her role. We may not see her as often. She will not be our pastoral care minister, but she will still be around. She will still be around. And so she's over there this Sunday, but the next 2 Sundays we'll have her here. And I kicked me and Michael off the speaking schedule for the last Sunday of the month because I want her to be able to share her journey and her joy with us. And I want us to just shower her with love and affection and let her know that we understand that there's a higher call and that we all have to listen to that. And I feel like she just really epitomized this idea of Donna seeking her good being her God, and it was drawing, and it's pushing, and it's moving her on. And we too have that same divine power within us, that same divine ability to speak our word of good into life, into action. So I want to ask you a few questions. And they might seem silly, but let's just go with it, okay? Raise a hand. How many of you here believe that there is a power greater than you in the universe? Okay, most everyone. Now, how many of you believe that that power is within us? Okay. Now, how many of you believe that that power is a power of good? Okay. So I want to invite you to repeat some things after me, okay? And maybe write 1 or 2 down. God is calling. Hello, God. God, you can wait. We're talking about good here. Right? Oh my God, I was funny. Okay, that's a good one because Josh and Michael are the funny ones. I'm just the weird one. Okay, so let us say this. There is good for me and I ought to have it. There is good for me and I ought to have it. My good is my God. My good is my God. The good that I am seeking is seeking me. The good that I am seeking is seeking me. Do you believe that? Yes. Say it again. The good that I am seeking is seeking me. That's okay. I am seeking my good, and my good is love. I am seeking my good, and my good is love. I am seeking my good, and my good is peace. I am seeking my good, and my good is peace. I'm seeking my good, and my good is health. I am seeking my good, and my good is health. I'm seeking my good, and my good is prosperity. I'm seeking my good, and my good is prosperity. Yes. When we come from this statement of being, when we come from this lesson of truth, it not only reminds us that can we, but we must use our words of power, use our words of good, and speak them up and out loud into the world. Get ourselves out of our way. That's the thing, right? Get our bloated nothingness out of the way so that we can put our statement of being into being. So let's pray. Right here and right now, I just feel invigorated with the Spirit of good, with that Spirit of the divine that is dwelling within every one of us, knowing and feeling that we are a collective one. I raise us up. I raise us up in energy and consciousness, knowing that there is an ultimate good, a mighty, mighty good. And it is every single part of us. And our words and our thoughts and our feelings come together and collide as one power, drawing our good to us, allowing it to push us forward in our life. God, there is good for us. And I feel it and I know it now. We are children of the Most High. It is our divine inheritance, our divine right to speak up, to say that which we desire, and to hold it in our heart. For this truth, for this energy, for this blessing, I am so grateful. My heart is filled with love and gladness. And so I give my words to that infinite law of mind that says, yes, this is what you desire. Yes. You want more good in your life. Yes. You believe that your good is love. Yes. And so it is. Oh, thank you.